Yeah, so here's another live drive jive edition with your host Frank Monday. Fred Flintstone, yabba dabba doo. I don't know why I'm thinking about Fred Flintstone. Maybe I saw a picture of him somewhere. Maybe he's just maybe he's thinking about me. Because when you're thinking about someone, they're probably chances are they're thinking about you too. So Fred Flintstone being a fictional character, I don't know if he does a lot of thinking, but he might do a little. Welcome to another show, everyone. I hope you're doing well, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone watching. Wizard, warrior, wizard, warrior, wayfarer, and wanderer alike. Welcome, wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you are. Twilight Zone OP King, Central Kingdom of Celestial Dragon. You guys know the routine. So, Dave Polides on Missing 411, he was reading a letter from someone that sent in an email, I guess, and they were talking about the jinn. And so it was probably an Islam person, and they were saying that the study of Islam would answer all of your questions. And then, according to their doctrine, humankind was only created 50 or 60,000 years ago. I think something like that. And I thought, it's kind of strange, huh? I've never heard that before. Um, I don't know how far we can go back in time and legitimately assume or legitimately have any real evidence of people, and what does it really matter? I don't know. Yeah, an odd statement, huh? Russian lad, welcome. Good to see you, sir. Hope you're doing well. And then, according to Hindu or Indian Hinduism, their doctrine says that people are more like 2 million years old. So you've got the long spectrum, 2 million, and then you've got modern day science says around 200,000. Is that what it is? 200 million? No, 200,000 years ago. And but their horseshit says we came from Anthropithecus and what are those other ones? Neanderthals. And so I don't know how much of that I buy into. And then I've heard that some of the Christian folks say that it was around 6,000 years ago. But the Chinese say that Fuji was one of their legendary um, ancient kings, was gathering and organizing the people 50,000 years ago, and he was a latecomer. So it's hard to say. And I guess any old paradigm will do. The people in the Tartarian movement, they say that if you don't know where you're from, you don't know where you're going. But I don't know if I believe that's true either, because you don't really need to know where you've been in order to know where to get to. I mean, you could be headed to the store, and halfway to the store, you forget where you forget if you left the office or the house, and what would it really matter? You could still get to the store. So I don't know if I buy into their philosophy there either. But I do think that it's important. I think that it's interesting. I don't know if it's important, but I think that it's interesting to look at all the various explanations from where people came from. Whether or not we'll ever really know, I don't know. I don't know. And that's part of the mystery of parents. Seems pretty legit. Yeah, I'm on Plum Blossom Lane, guys, where the old wizard of Plum Blossom Lane wanders, hobbling with his cane, gibbering inane, really quite insane. To watch him is a pain. But he's a good guy, that old wizard. He's got a tower out here, and he's the guardian of the graveyard. Meet me at the gate. Meet me at the cemetery gate on Plum Blossom Lane. That's what Frater Marlowe said in a transmission recently. I think he said it on the comment. The autumn weather is kicking in. We've got changing leaves, and today we woke up with some odious miasmic fog. It's kind of hard to breathe. I noticed, like, I wasn't breathing very good when I woke up this morning, and I'm like, wow, the air quality seems thick and dank. And then when I got outside, yeah, there's like clouds of odious hanging fog all over the town. So winters in Beijing can be extremely harsh. There can be really heavy, poor air quality and gets extremely cold. So like winter survival is it's a challenge, man. It's like breathing. Here's how I described it back in my comedy days. I said it's like swimming around in shit soup, sucking on a turd. And that sums it up. It does get pretty gnarly here. We've got the epic, world famous bad air quality in this city, especially in the wintertime. But they've been working hard to clean it up somehow. I guess relocating factories further outside the city into the countryside, right? Uh, this this city over the last few decades was uh, a manufacturing powerhouse downtown where I had an office for like a decade. I met a guy that lived there back in the day when there were factories everywhere, and he told me we were at the top of the building, near the top, like the 33rd floor, and looking out the window, and he was explaining to me how that entire area used to be all heavy industry, steel manufacturing, and there was a you could see right outside the window, like on the left of the river, not a river really, more of a canal, but they call it the river, the Tonghuihe River. There were a railway switching station with I think 5 or 6 lanes of railway traffic, and I never saw any trains coming or going on it. But he said that back in the day when they were all factories as far as the eye could see, and he said you couldn't see very far because you couldn't see the sun. He said occasionally the sun would burn through the coal smoke and pollution. But I guess the really dire part of it is when they're doing that iron smelting. From what I understand, it puts a lot of mercury into the air. Do they use mercury in the smelting of iron and ceramics? So those were the two big industries he said were in that area were iron and ceramic. And the level of pollution back then was just deadly. We're talking about guys in their 40s and 50s would just have, terrible skin and growing all sorts of growths on their body and stuff. And so they sacrificed themselves for the economic power of the state. And I remember that was one of the first things I noticed when I got here was typically everyone thinks that Chinese folks or Asian folks especially will have really good skin and look deceptively young well into their twilight years. And I was surprised at like how bad everybody's skin looked here. And I thought, man, there must be something in the air that everyone has such horrible skin. Like I don't know what it's called, but like discoloration and splotching and stuff. And I thought, yeah, that'll happen to me too, man, if I stay here long enough. And I have. I've stayed here long enough. Yeah. So let's not worry about all that happening horse shit. Let's worry about I've arrived at the yard, so I've got a few minutes to hang out with anyone that's hanging around. It looks like we lost everybody out in the ideas room. That's okay. I didn't really do any live streams over the weekend because the tooth. I was dealing with the tooth pain, and so I just chilled. Uh, I did go. Okay, Russian lad, you're still out there in Happy Land. Good to see you, sir. Charles Marlowe was here a moment ago. Frater Marlowe. Nunu's here. Just happened to make it to the live stream. Good to see you, Atlantean Neo, broadcasting from ancient Lemuria and Lemuria, then Atlantis, right? From what I understand, there was a person who was examining one of the older maps, and he said that it was that all of these things are still here, but it's in concentric circles. So there was Hyperborea at the center of the, you imagine it like a plate, I guess, a disc, the Earth plane. And then towards the center was Hyperborea at the North Pole. And then the outer ring from that was Atlantis. And then the ring outside of that is Lemuria. And then the ring outside of that is Mu. I think that's the way he laid it down. So he said that we're still actually living in Atlantis. Just it's not called that anymore. But I don't know. But it's a concentric circle, and then outside beyond the Arctic ice wall, if you buy into that theory, um, or that paradigm rather, I think it's a paradigm. It's kind of a reality tunnel. Um, that there are more. Okay, Lemuria, then Atlantis. There was a Mu part of Lemuria, like Lemia East. Okay. Yeah, so I didn't entirely get it because I haven't read that literature. Um okay, Russian lad has officially gotten sick. It's gotten worse. Yeah, cold and flu season, right? When the weather starts to turn, that's when everything starts to go hill, the great dying off. So it's not just you, Russian lad. Like I felt like shit all weekend too. It's not just you, it's all of nature is going through this and preparing for the great death, right? The cyclical death cycle. So the autumn, you see that all the leaves start to die. And according to Rudolf Steiner and his anthroposophy, he says that people need to let. Okay, Easter Island is a remnant of Mu that had connections with Atlantis. Good deal. Where can a person find more information about this stuff? Because I guess it can't just be internet sources. I think some of it, people that have reincarnated from those times probably have some intuitive understanding of it. Yeah, so you've got the different seasons according to Huang Di in the Internal Guide to Medicine, that the autumn time and anthroposophy too, like I was saying, Steiner talks about this. I think Steiner must have had access to some Chinese literature, or maybe it was just the Indian. They were bringing forward the Indian Hinduism into the Western mystery schools. Yeah, reincarnation memories. I think that has something to do with it because I've intuitively felt some of these things too, Nunu, but hadn't really heard much about them and haven't read any literature really. But I've heard other people talk about it, and some things ring as true, and other things ring as untrue. So that's discernment, spiritual discernment. So I was saying Rudolf Steiner says that in the autumn time, you have to learn to let go and die with the world. And so you have a kind of physical, like the prime material plane is the vegetation realm, the mineral realm is kind of dying off, like with the trees, I guess, and all the other plants and stuff, and then the animals too. Um, yeah, I've heard about that, Nunu, and I think I've had a few over the years. I definitely know that I've had some pretty big downloads in dreamland, like lucid dreaming, and experienced quite a bit that I've wrote about. But piecing it all together and getting a kind of consistent narrative has been my mission over the last few years. Because in the early days, I was just so busy with work and kung fu and raising a young family. But now that my kids are getting closer to high school age and they're more independently oriented, like in their own studies and stuff, I've got more free time now to start focusing on my own spiritual cultivation. and it does come in bits. And then the big thing, like with that said, is that many spiritualists and people spiritually minded agree that as you get closer to middle age, your dreaming actually slows down and you start dreaming less. And I think that has something to do with the monkey mind too, because I realized that once I hit 40, the monkey mind just kind of turned off and there wasn't any internal monologue anymore per se. It just kind of quieted itself down, which I had been seeking to do for a long time anyway with meditation and kung fu and stuff. And it never really bothered me that much. But once I hit, like I said, once I hit 40, it all just slowed down and quieted down. Hey, Chris A's out there. Good to see you, Chris A. So, little orientation for where everyone's at. I think free gift from God's here as well. He's in Jersey. Chris A's out in Britannia, I believe the Brighton or London area, if I remember correctly. Birmingham, if I'm correct. Russian lad somewhere in the United States. I'm thinking South Carolina or Charlottesville, North Carolina, maybe. And then Nunu's out in Idaho. So we got people from all over the world here today, man, all over the states and the greater world. I, of course, am in China. Yeah, Beijing. And I've arrived at the yard. I got about 10 minutes. So I'm going to have myself a smoke. Yeah, that toothache really exhausted me, man. I think I finally responded to one of your comments, Chris. Um, I was trying to respond to emails and stuff over the weekend, but I wasn't having it, man. It wasn't happening. Every time I sat down and tried to focus, I'd be like, "Arr." And so I just gave up. Yeah, so that was what I was mentioning just now is that nice sunny fall in Idaho. I envy that. We've got a fog drenched, gnarly city this morning. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, the whole idea from Rudolf Steiner is that yeah, you get less creative. I've heard that too, Russian lad. That in the autumn time, it's important to try to let go and die, experience the death with the world. Like if you're in the northern hemisphere, I guess, or the inner ring, the inner circumvental ring of the Earth, the prime material plane, closer to the giant magnetic lodestone at the center. Then, yeah, so you'll have that wintry experience coming on, and the trees are dying off, the vegetation's dying off, the animals are all going into hiding, and he says that it's important to let go and kind of experience that death. Not to let go, obviously not to let go spiritually, but to experience dying with the world and then get ready for winter and the rebirth. So how everybody goes about that is different. I think the burning of bonfires has always been traditionally very important for people around this time. And if you can build a small fire and look into the bright flames, I think that can be helpful. Wow, the sun is rising right now. Well, I mean, it's up and it's above the building, but this morning there was such thick fog that you couldn't see the sunrise. And it's due east because we're right at the time of the equinox, just after. So shedding of the leaves and the fur, and maybe snakes are losing their skins and stuff and getting ready to grow a new one for winter. I wonder how a snake gets down in its burrow, right? It has an underground lair. Hey, Charles Marlowe is out there in Happy Land too. Good to see you, Frater Marlowe, Frater Chris, Brother Neo, Russian lad. Quite a collection of individuals out there in Happy Land. So, how do you guys deal with the transformation, the equinox of the gods, and going into winter? How do you get ready? How do you deal with the dying off of the world? Do you have any special rituals or practices? Harvest season, right? So gathering the fruits and nuts and berries. The fields are about to go fallow, I guess. Not much more will grow beyond this point. There's definitely not any planting to be done, just harvesting. Melon fields. Yeah, wear long johns. That's a good idea. Yeah, I thought about wearing a vest today. I should have done it because it is starting to feel chilly here. It's dropping down to I don't know how cold, but it's getting chilly. I wanna light this smoke, man, because I'm running out of time. See if I can find a lighter. There's one. I noticed too, like I'll switch over to drinking more hot tea in the winter. Like in fact, I might not even brew coffee in the morning. I might make hot tea instead. So that's one thing I do that's different. Prepare to hunker down, hibernate, books, hot drinks, and no outdoor work. Yeah, that's good. And you could sleep in later too, according to the Yellow Emperor's Internal Classic of Medicine. That it's important not to jump up in the cold weather first thing in the morning. That rather than that, you should stay under the covers a little longer and enjoy the warmth. He says it's better for the body to sleep in later in the winter, which makes sense because the sun comes up later, right? Also, it's important to not wear too much tight clothing, to wear more layers of loose clothing rather than heavy clothing. Yeah, that's good. You can do that, Nunu. I prep the garden for winter. Yeah, that's good. Walk and hike. Certainly have a few fires in the fire pit, etc. Yeah, that's good. I wish there was some place I could have fires in the winter. Maybe I'll rent a cabin this winter and go out to the rural area. That way I can have a fireplace and enjoy some kind of marshmallow roasting and stuff with my kids and gather around the fireplace, buy some firewood and stuff. Getting a little bit of the rural country experience when living in the city is kind of a challenge. It's first thing in the morning, Charles. So I'm about 5 minutes now out from having to go to my office. I need to get there a little earlier each day now because I'm the manager, which is cool. I got a promotion in rank, which also came with more class hours and more responsibilities, like doing doing peer review, like watching other teachers' classes and then making notes on their teaching style. Yeah, so it requires me to be in the office a little earlier, like punctually. I can't be showing up late. So I got to head over there in a minute. That's why I'm just having my last smoke before I go in there. Winter bears on the health, and there's spring. Yeah, so all of the transformations are can be challenging when you get a little older. When you're young, it doesn't affect you as much. I don't know though. Russian lad, he's pretty young. I think he's early to mid 20s, and he was just saying that he got sick. The coof might have got him. Yeah, it's a bad idea to wear tight clothes in general. That's in the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine. Country living's good. It's much better for the spirit. It deepens the mind. City living makes you very superficial and materialistic. I grew up in the city, Los Angeles, but I had the opportunity to go to the country every year, like summertime and sometimes even in the winter, and stay with my grandma in Tennessee. And I was the only kid among four children that wanted to do that. and I felt a calling to the rural areas. And there was just something really nice about walking through a wooded area and seeing like natural water flowing over rocks. And like sometimes I'd take a little cannabis out there with me and take a puff. And like when I started practicing kung fu regularly, like wow, doing your kung fu practice and like qigong and meditation and stuff in the countryside is so nice. And especially when you're among like her areas among low hills and valleys, and there's the Tennessee River, of course, but there's something really cool about that area. I really liked it a lot. Um, and I still do. I still have a kind of romantic um, love affair with the Appalachians and the what do they call them? The Blue Ridge Mountains, Old Rocky Top. Wish that I was on old Rocky Top down in the Tennessee hills. Boop, 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 boo, old Rocky Top. Ain't no telephone bills. I don't even remember that song now, man, but that's a song about Tennessee and Rocky Top. There's even a state park called Rocky Top where you can go up there and there's some like Tartarian ruins. I've visited there a few times. And then there's Shiloh, and the Trail of Tears starts there, I believe, in the Tennessee, West Tennessee, and then runs all the way to the Dakotas, the Badlands. I wasn't a real big student of history and geography, but every time I meet someone from a new location, I try to do some research on the encyclopedias. And I found a couple of cool encyclopedias. Like everyone says Wikipedia is kind of horse shit, and you can get basic facts off of Wikipedia, um, not much more. But I've found some other online encyclopedias. Like there's, of course, the Britannica, is that what it's called? Britannica. And then there's a couple of others. I forget the names of them now, but it's fun to jump in, like learn about a new person out there in Happy Land. One of you guys, one of the viewers of the channel, someone that participates in the live streams and stuff, and then go the check out the information on their area. I like to learn about new areas I want to visit. I visited almost every state in the lower 48 except for the most extreme north ones. I've been Washington and Vancouver area. What is that? The Puget Sound. I've been that far north on the west coast, and then of course Oregon, Medford, uh, Portland, Seattle, and all of those several times up that far north. Master Nee lived up there, and I went to stay with Master Nee watching and work as his apprentice. And he had me driving back and forth from LA and San Francisco sometimes. And then Northern California too, a little bit, not much. The Redwoods, been through that area. But then I've been all the way out across the southern run, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, the I-10, I think it is the I-10. I've been all the way across the states on the I-10, the I-40, and the I-80, but I didn't get into the northernmost states like Montana, Minnesota. I've been as far north as Michigan and the Great Lakes. And then up on the other side, I've been as far as New York and Pennsylvania, Boston. I lived in Boston for 2 years. And then I've almost been into Florida. I think I drove through one small port of Florida. We were headed to New Orleans, and we had gone first to Charlottesville, North Carolina, and then headed south and took some highway. I can't remember which one it was, but we ended up going pretty close to Florida. We may or may not have actually driven into Florida, but then we went across Georgia and Alabama into Louisiana. Is that right? Mississippi? Did we go through all of that? Yeah, we did. And we went to New Orleans for a Halloween celebration of all things. And we ended up staying like 2 weeks in the French Quarter and drinking a lot and playing a lot of pool. And we went there to buy like, and this was in my early 20s, man, to buy some robes for the coven we were starting. So it was me and another guy, and we were studying the Golden Dawn and other magic and stuff like that. And yeah, about early to mid 20s. That was after the Master Knee days. And so I was getting into the magic and the accoutrements, but I was still doing my kung fu religiously too. That's always been my mainstay, is practicing Xing Chuan. It's a system of internal Chinese kung fu that's based on the circulation of the five elements in Chinese Taoism, and then they have 12 animals. Yeah, that's right. Wherever you go, there you are. People always ask me, they're like, how could you leave the US and come to China? I'm like, and they're always asking, is it better there? You know, it must be better. Everyone says the US is better than China, so why are you here? And I said, wherever you go, there you are. You know, if the man is good, then it doesn't matter where he's at, right? And you can't feel like you gotta. And I didn't come to China to get away from the States. You know, I love the States, and I really want America to abide by its republic, the Constitution and the republic, and deviate away from all this globalist madness that they're this weird message that they're trying to push into society now. And fucking with kids, man. That's one thing I really don't like, is them fucking with kids. Kids should be left alone. Kids should be able to be kids until they hit, you know, 18 or 20, in my opinion. I don't even think they should be introduced to anything like alcohol or drugs or sex or any of that until they get out of high school. I know in the States we're a little more prone to get involved with, like, you know, getting high and drinking a beer and stuff like that and screwing your girlfriend in high school. But that shouldn't be something that's overt, because that's going to happen anyway. You know, kids are going to figure that stuff out. But it definitely shouldn't be something that's promoted. I don't think. That's, you guys know my opinion on that. I'm a little more conservative and traditional in that respect. Guys, we've arrived and I'm running out of time. In fact, I'm running late. So thank you for tuning in. It's good to see all of you. Please leave a comment. Tell me how you adapt to the coming wintry changes, and be well. Do good magic, day 60. So we're almost to the third trimester, and hopefully I can prepare some stuff now that the tooth has settled down. You have a good day too, Chris, Nunu, Charles Marlowe, Russian Lad, and everyone else that has tuned in and will tune in the future. Chris A. out in old jolly old England, and everyone back stateside, and wherever you may be, whoever you may be, and whenever you may be, do good magic, as above, so below, into the abodes of the future. I will see you on the next transmission.